Welcome to Grow in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Mariah Krystal, founder and principal coach of AYC Consulting Group, also known as Authentically You Coaching. Grow in the Middle podcast is about real truths of growing successful careers, the good, the bad, the great, and the ugly. Here we're going to talk about navigating imposter syndrome, leaning into discomfort, and learning about roles that aren't always spotlighted or deemed glamorous. Every episode is short, actionable, and designed to give you practical insights, honest stories, and guidance to grow your career with clarity and authenticity. Whether you're aiming for a promotion, pivoting into a new role, or just trying to figure out your next steps, this podcast is where you're going to thrive in spaces that matter the most. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Grow in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Mariah Krystal. Today, I'm excited to introduce Jonah Alain, a sales professional for over 20 years in traditional sales from retail, banking, wireless, and even real estate. Jonah recently jumped into tech sales by way of Rework Bootcamp. His journey is all about adaptability and growth. After 6 years in real estate, he realized his passion for problem solving and relationship building could translate into a fast-moving world of tech sales. Through Rework training, Jonah was able to land an opportunity as an account executive at NJII. He's proven that strong sales foundations is valuable in the industry and in everyday life. Today, we'll explore his career transitions and the challenges he's faced and advice for others looking to make a bold move. Jonah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I'd like to start by you telling me a little bit more about yourself and going into your journey.
Since a young boy, I always wanted to, I just wanted to be a businessman. I didn't know what that really meant. I just knew one day in class, my teacher told us to draw what you want to be. And I drew myself walking out of a big building, and I was the boss, and I just had to make sure I took care of everything with a briefcase. And so as I got older, it still was something I wanted to, do. And then when I got to college, I ended up meeting my wife, but, then girlfriend, of course, and my focus changed a little bit, and I ended up having my first daughter. And so life completely changed, and I had to literally become a man overnight. And so that really is what brought me into the world of sales. It was something that I understood was something that really had to do with character, empathy, listening. There was a few skills that I already possessed that showed me that I would be very successful in it. So I went through my retail journey and moved up the ranks into management. But quite honestly, it wasn't fulfilling. And it still was that inner thing that since a boy that I wanted to deal with businesses. I just still wanted to be, I didn't feel like I was a businessman. So I got into real estate, and real estate was introduced to me for years, and I kind of slept on it until finally, right before COVID, I went ahead and took the class and did everything. And real estate kind of opened my mind, into just so many different things. And it's sales, but it's the same thing, but there's levels of empathy that you have to use. So it just was just knowledge that I was gaining from real estate, knowledge that I pulled in from banking, from, Verizon Wireless, T-Mobile. I've worked for them, and then yet and still I wanted to make a transition out. Fast forward to me being into my late 30s. I really wanted to do something that had to do with tech. And I just didn't know which way to go. And someone introduced me to tech sales, and I never heard of it. And when I tried looking into it, I was lost, completely lost. I didn't know where to go. I found a few other programs. I don't know if I should mention because I don't want to, talk badly about them, but they just weren't the right fit. And then somehow I came across Rework through my career coach. Shout out to her. And Rework just ended up being one of those rare things that's too good to be true, but it's actually true, if that makes sense. And so Rework just opened my mind to just sales on a whole nother level. starting with the interview. And I never in my 20 years of experience ever looked at an interview as a sales transaction. And so when my paradigm was shifted from there, I made sure I was involved in every single class. I made sure I was, on top of everything because I was hungry to make a change and get into the account executive position in the world of tech. And ultimately, I did everything that they told me to do. I practiced. I used everything that I learned and made it my own thing. And I say within 3 months of joining Rework, 2.5 to 3 months of joining Rework, I landed an account executive position, which is one over what they train us for, so I was just that hungry, and I'm just forever grateful that they helped me make that transition into this level of sales where now I'm dealing with businesses and C-suite executives and stakeholders. I'm feeling a lot more fulfilled.
I love that. There's a lot in this story, right? You've had a 20-year career, right? You've got some babies, you got a wife, and always this sentiment of, okay, there's something more, there's something different. Even from a child, I know I need to be this businessman, and I need, you know what I mean? Kind of foreshadowing or even manifesting what you want life ideally to look like. And having that in the back of your head, which seemed to be a driver. And then getting into Rework. So I'm going to have you break down a couple things. For those of you who are listening to the podcast for the first time, Rework is a tech sales bootcamp that helps people break into tech sales via an SDR, which is a sales development representative, or a BDR role, which is a business development representative. Jonah joined the program a couple months ago. Right? A couple months ago, went through the entire boot camp. The boot camp is a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. So it's free to join. It's free in cost, not free in labor.
Yes. Make that very clear. You got to work. They call it rework for a reason.
Yeah, you really do. And it's a lot of a shift in mindset, a shift in priorities of like, how are you going to make time for this? And those who follow the code will have results like Jonah, right? So coming out, Jonah, you were able to land a role as an account executive, which is, like you said, above a couple levels above the SDR and BDR role. And account executives, which typically pay more, right? So definitely putting you in a different spot and giving you a different idea of what sales can really look like and putting you in a different space. So I love to hear that you were able to make that transition 20 years in, because a lot of people feel stuck.
That was me. For a while. I felt stuck, and it's funny because a few days ago, I just turned 40 on January 20th.
Congratulations and happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's dope.
We're not old, but in your head, you start, hey, man, I'm 40 years old. I'm old, and that plays with you a lot, and it for me, and I know for it happens with some of my friends, and I've heard plenty of people talk about it, that gets you stuck, because you're just thinking that you're too old to be transitioning at this point in your life, to be transitioning into something completely different, relearning something, or, trying to go back to school and different things, especially when you have the responsibility of a family and businesses and all these different things, but I had to do what I had to do. There was no way that I could stay where I was, because of the fact that I had my kids looking at me.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think there's a couple things, right? I think you being able to say, well, you get to 40, you get to 30, you get to 40, and 40 used to be like middle age, right? Because people weren't really living past 70, 80.
Yeah.
So it's like, whoa, middle age. And to your point, instead of thinking like, oh, I'm here, or you felt that, like you feel that like I'm here, I'm kind of stuck here, but no, I'm actually going to do something different, is really, really huge. And it speaks to me around like, hey, you're 40. What does the next 10 years look like, right? So when I think about that, what are you looking forward to for the next 10 years for you? Because really, you're starting over.
Yeah. Um, Fortunately, in the position, in the role that I just recently accepted with NJII, I'm a founding account executive, and it's in a pretty brand new department that's about 7 months old.
Can you
So,
explain what that is real quick? Can you tell like what's different about a founding versus a regular SDR?
so
Oh, excuse me, account executive.
I'm the first account executive that they hired in that department, and they have no infrastructure, they have no P&P, they have no scripts for me to follow, they don't have anything, and they hired me based on my expertise, and part of my job is literally putting that infrastructure together for those that are going to be following. So the growth opportunity is through the roof, and with what we're offering, I believe that we will grow ridiculously fast, and I could position myself to just like level up. What's may take somebody 20 years to do, it can take me 10.
Oh, that. Look at what you transitioned your career, right? 20 years and you can transition your career. You're now in what I would consider like a middle level role, like as far as level goes, right? A middle role. And that role is offering you so much growth and opportunity. It also offered you a pay increase, right? Am I right about that? Offered you a pay increase, a lot of growth and opportunity. They interviewed you and seeing like, hey, this person can help us build out, because founding, I wanted you to say that because founding is really important. They don't just pick anyone to be a founding anything. They want someone who they feel can be a generalist, someone who can pick up, understand. And it doesn't mean that you had to have 20, 30 years of experience. It's your work ethic and it's your mindset that people pay attention to. And that's why I say these middle roles are so important, because there's so much growth and opportunity. There's also leadership, because if you build out, well, not if, as you build out for a founding account executive, you're literally laying the ground for those who come after you, and you automatically start to become, or you start to transition into that leadership space, right? Even if you don't manage anyone, right? You're still in that leadership space, because they're going to be looking to you to see like, okay, what have you tried already? What haven't you tried? So I think that is super important. When you think about being in this position, what are some of the learnings that you're bringing with you, either from your previous experience with rework or your past experience in your other industries? What are some of the learnings that you're taking into this role?
A lot of it is coming from rework, because first and foremost, rework literally, they made me look at my own experience differently. So I had experience that I didn't realize I had, and now it's almost like having a sword and you only used it to just kind of strike. You never used it to defend and, protect. You know what I mean? So I got a chance to understand how to use the sword more than what I knew it for. And that literally changed everything. So much so to the point where, and I'm not bragging on myself at all. This is literally a lot of credit.
It's okay to brag on yourself. It's okay. It's okay to brag.
No,
People need to get comfortable with that. Brag on
I'll
yourself.
take a little bit. I'll take a little bit. But doing the interview process, for maybe they were already looking for two account executives. They're looking for. They were already looking for a few months. They spoke to me. I did the whole interview process, 4 interviews. I crushed all 4, and I really set the bar so high to the point they still can't find anyone. So they've been interviewing, and I'm seeing the people come in and out, and my director's looking at me, and she's like, I can't. They're not matching. There's no way they're not going to work. So, again, it's my mindset is completely changed. My confidence level in my sales has increased significantly. So I'm able to speak to these high level stakeholders with confidence in my own skills and abilities in sales. So it's really an exciting thing. Every day is different. I'm talking to so many people that do so many different things. So it's never really, it hasn't been a boring day just yet. So, and even if there is a boring day, I have the opportunity to do something that won't make it boring. So it's just like, it's endless. I'm just very, very grateful. But what I've learned, again, it changed the game for everything.
Jonah, I'm excited. It is because like you can feel that you can feel like the passion in the way that you're speaking. And I think it's so important because I see so many people that just feel stuck and feel like it's just things are just never going to change for them, and not realizing that oftentimes you need to change your surroundings. You need to change the people that you're hanging around. And not to say that you can't kick it with your friends that you've always been with, but you and I touched on this a little bit when we met for coffee, but it's like when you're around people who can show you something different, whether they're on the same level as you or not, but they're just experiencing something different, it opens your world. It opens your network, which is why it's so important to network. It's so important to build community. It's so important. I mean, honestly, I think it's so important to just be a nice human being, because oftentimes just by being kind to someone, like,
Opens doors.
It literally, like, just that, right? Just like being able to think outside the box, being able to, you and I talked about like starting to really push ourselves to like meet monthly, to make sure that we just share and drop ideas, right? How many people have a circle where they can just drop these ideas, these business ideas, and there are people who are doing similar things or just have insight or knowledge or can connect you with someone. Not a lot of people have that, and they don't want to network.
That's the thing. And I was just about to say that I believe we all have it or have the opportunity to get it. It's just that not everybody is willing to put in the work. So not everybody deserves it, to be quite honest. So it's there. And and it's just, I don't want to keep going back to rework, but to see a free program that offers something that if you could put a price on it, most people wouldn't even sign up because the price would be just too much. But for it to be offered free and it's not at 100% graduation rate, it's just not for everybody, So you could make it free and still people won't put the work in, So when it comes to networking is literally what even led me to even think about this path, So I had to step out my comfort zone, went out to the city, saw some tech events, when I went there, start by being kind, like you said, smile, converse with people, introduce myself, those different things, and be confident as well. And just ask questions. People love, I realize networking, people love to answer questions.
And especially about themselves.
Everybody has a story. Exactly. Everybody has a story. And if you really listen, you'll find nuggets and gems that you could pull away and help you further yourself along. So that was my experience too. Networking. Your network is your net worth. That's just something that was said to me, and I strongly believe that.
I wholeheartedly agree. I want to go back to what you said about even like making things free and people still don't utilize them. Google is free. Google is free. ChatGPT has a free version.
AI is free.
AI is free. For the most part, it's free. At most, I've seen $20, and people aren't utilizing it to help themselves grow. Then they'll have a network and not ask questions. And I will say, because I definitely use my resources, but there have been times where I've been like, oh, I don't want to bother this person. I don't want to so-and-so. And then I'll like push past the fear. I'll just ask the question like, hey, I'm doing so-and-so. Do you have any thoughts or ideas? And then they're like, oh, here's 10 resources. Here's what you need to do. Here's that. And you saved me not even hours, but days and weeks.
Yep.
So the more people always talk about, and you've mentioned this now too, confidence, right? Confidence is so key. And people always talk about like, I'm just not confident, or I need to build confidence. But most people don't know how to build confidence. People are just like, I just need to get more confident. And then next week, they're not more confident. And confidence comes from repetition.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you do something consistently, you by nature, you get more confident in it. Like you learn, and then you start to see what are some things that you can do differently, right? Like, okay, whether it's the gym, whether it's cooking, right? You doing something consistently, talking to people. So for those of you out there listening and you're trying to work on confidence, the only way that you get more confident is to continue doing.
To just do it. That's it.
Nike,
It's
right?
the only thing. Yeah, Nike. I just said that to my son yesterday. You just got to do it, no matter what it is. If you're playing a basketball game and you learned a new move, but now you're nervous because everybody's watching, you don't want to mess up.
Mm-hmm.
Only way you're gonna find out if you could do that move is to just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are stuck with that fear. Fear is really the thing that's holding most of us back. Whether it's fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of people just looking at us, being in the spotlight. There's a lot of different things, but once we get past that initial fear and you take that first step, everything else kind of falls into place, and you realize like, oh, I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree wholeheartedly.
I love that.
Yeah. One thing I did want to add when it came to networking too, we talked about what I'm doing with the sales and everything, but I told you too, real estate I do as well. And I say that it's very important not only to build a network for a particular thing, but in everything that you're interested in too. So what I did was I built a very strong network in sales, but I also have a very strong network in real estate. For anything that I don't know is the same exact way that you were saying as well. So even when it comes to me as an agent, I have a great network, but I also developed the network in development because I know in that 10-year plan that we just spoke about, that's something I'm doing as well. Development. I'm going to be building homes and apartment buildings and things like that. So I have to build that network now so that when I'm ready to make that initial purchase on whatever the property is, I have everything in place. So I'm not now trying to figure anything out. All I got to do is make a phone call, set a meeting up, whatever it is. And I have people there helping me avoid months of just mistakes and just different things, So build that network everywhere. You have small circles everywhere that you have interest or in whatever it is that you want to do.
That is a gem. That's planting the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
That literally. So thank you for saying that, because what happens is people are like, oh, let's say we're talking 40, right? We're 40, 30, mid 30. I'm turning 34 in a month and a half, right? So people are like, oh, a lot of us are planning for like the next decade or even retirement, or we should be kind of thinking about that. And it's like, oh, when I retire or in 10 years, I want to own a shop, or like you said, I want to be able to build houses. And it's like, well, I'll start making those relationships when I get closer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the way to go about it. It's like you said, you start now, because the developer that you made a relationship with, they might be so far ahead in 10 years that and you're still connected to them, that the process just might be a lot easier. They might know a lot more, even if they're not like super, super far ahead. They just might have collected so much more knowledge. You might have an opportunity where it's like, my plan is 10 years, but now I'm seeing 5 years. This is the time. I have the money saved, whatever it is. I found the business partner that makes sense. So to your point, if you don't start getting into it now and just like making those relationships, and that goes with to your point, every part of your life, all of your hobbies. I do want you to share a little bit more of like your hobbies and some of the other things that you're doing to give people an example of like how well-rounded you are.
Hobbies. I do a lot of different things. So I'm a musician. I play the piano. I've played since I was maybe 8 years old. And what else? I told you before, I own a clothing store with my wife. I have a line of jackets. I do a lot of vending in Newark, in Essex and Union County. I've done vending and sold jackets up and down the East Coast. I've had people buy literally around the world. What else? Um,
How did you learn to do, like, where does that come from? The store, the jackets. We talk about people being afraid to start something but want to do it. Like, I want to design a shirt for my brand, and I'm like, I've
um,
found all this stuff, but I don't know how to start the design.
well, I was blessed to be married to my wife, who's very, very ambitious. Like she comes from she's Dominican. She's West Indian as well. She comes from a lineage of women that just are go getters. So I always had the ideas of doing different things. But I always had that thing that was just like, yeah, but if I didn't, and she would see what it was, whatever my vision was, and she would, are you crazy? You got to do this. You got to do this. And, she would help motivate me to just take the risk. And a lot of things for myself that I was dealing with for years. And sometimes I still deal with it because of the fact that I started a family so young. In my head, I was older than what I was. So while I was 20 years old with, my first child, but I'm married, all my 20-year-old friends are looking at me like, man, I look up to you, man. And just like, so it made me feel so old. Like, so I couldn't, like, I was like, all right, I got to just focus on this because I'm a grown man. And, so I was afraid of taking a lot of risk. I missed out on a lot of opportunities for what I really wanted to do because of just me, not just, I didn't know any better is the
You're
best way.
playing it safe, too safe.
Yeah. And it's, what is that? Imposter syndrome. That's something
Oh,
I
yeah.
kind of learned a lot about recently, but I didn't realize I was dealing with like a severe case of imposter syndrome. And so in a lot of cases, my wife would just be like, no, let's do this. And we'll talk and we'll put the plan together and we'll just go for it. We're in this together. So if we fail, we fail together. You know what I mean? We still got each other. So it was a lot of motivation from that, and thankfully she had the same mindset. I think that's what really attracted us, is the fact that we had these ideas that we really wanted to bring out into the world. So fashion was one of the biggest things that we've done together. And, it really blew up. We did a fashion show during New York Fashion Week, so
Wow, Jonah, that's
yeah,
dope. You have
yeah.
to we make sure we have to share all the things. You can put it in the newsletter and in this episode, because I would love to support. I would love to see. That's someone's dream, and you, like, that's something you, like, knocked off. You also play the piano, again, something. You real estate. You have all these. I think. Are you taking this in of, like, as accomplishments, and as, like, you're I said well-rounded, which still stands and holds true, but, like, you're very talented and you have accomplished a lot in this 40 years. Like, are you taking that in?
Uh, uh, I'm learning how to now. For a very long time, I never. It wasn't enough for me, because I think again, it's just the way I was looking at the cards I was dealt. I was so focused on just doing right for my family because I didn't know what I was doing, and I just wanted to emulate, my parents and my community. And so a lot of times, looking at like the traditional family nucleus, or and it's kind of like, because me being Haitian, like the Haitian way of doing things, the traditional way, kind of clashed with what I really wanted to do and what my wife wanted to do. So that always kind of messed with me a little bit. So times I should be celebrating, I'm focused on, man, I should, and so that I never really, it took me some time to really learn how to do that. My first fashion show, we had maybe about 200, 250 people come. And we great fashion show. But the biggest thing for me was, it was right after the earthquake in Haiti. I don't know if you remember,
Mm-hmm.
Wyclef had his nonprofit, Yili
Mm-hmm.
Haiti. He had that nonprofit, and I was able to get some of the victims from Haiti that were able to come over and put them on stage to show people this is real. Like, this is something real. So in the
Wow.
moment, I'm doing it, and it's just like I'm really just, as I'm a good person, and I'm just doing this. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about the show. It was literally about, these are my people, and I want to really, while I have 250 people here, we're gonna shed light and we're gonna raise money to help them. It took me years to realize what I really just did.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it was just like, I'm in my head a lot of times. That's really it.
Come
But
out of your head, because come out. That's amazing. I think they're like, I say that I asked you, are you taking it in? Because I don't often take things in. So I could see, like you're talking about how you did all these things, and it's just like, yeah, I did this and I did that. But I like really want you to take a minute and like, wow, like these are things that people dream about.
Mhm.
They dream about, and you've done them
Yeah,
in that 40-year span, and that just tells me how much more you're gonna do, right? Like you've done all of these things, and you also spoke on like partnership. Having a good partner
mhm.
is so important. Finding a good partner, resonating with a person, because like people don't like to call it a business decision, but at the end of the day, it is love, but it also is just like your life, how you operate your life is a business, right?
It's
Like
first,
sometimes,
honestly, it's the first thing. The love comes after.
yeah. So like, so
Really.
finding a person that can help push you, right? Help to push you to relax, push you to challenge yourself, to support you, to encourage you. It doesn't mean that everything is always perfect, but at the end of it, because life isn't, right? But
Yeah.
like having that person, because you could have had somebody who's like, nope, it's only about the family. We can't, we got to wait until the kids are like grown,
Mhm.
and we have to wait until like they're off in college and they're all set, and then we'll start our dreams.
Mhm.
And by then, all of my ideas, all those juices are flowing. Not to say it's not possible, but oftentimes it's like, damn, I missed the mark on so many things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So it's just, no matter the circumstance. I think one thing I've learned, and if there's anything I could say to anybody who may be in a situation where the situation kind of makes them feel like they can't do certain things they want to do, you have to be true to yourself. You have to be true to yourself, no matter what. If I could go back, that would be something I would tell myself. And if anything, that's something even my kids have mentioned to me. They want to see the brilliance that they see at home. They're tired of just seeing it inside the four walls of the house. So I had made it my business. And of course, 40 years old, you have these revelations and everything. So I had my moment where it was, all right, I can never say 30 something years old ever again. In these next 10 years, this has to happen. There's no if, ands, or but. My kids have to see this. My
hello.
my network has to see this. I have to see this.
Mhm.
So that's really where I am now. And it's really been a journey, and I've learned, and I'm passionate about it, and I just really want to pay it forward and teach the younger guys behind me, whatever I could teach for them to just, again, you don't have to go through all the mistakes and everything. You could just learn and do better than what we're doing, and
Yeah.
do the same and pay it forward.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's awesome. And I think that there's stillness in that, but there's also like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And the more you tell yourself, you can still be fearful. Like, we talked about this. I was like, I need to do more workshops. I need to do more networking, because I want to get us all together, right? I want to make it easier for people to connect, because naturally I'm a connector of people. Why would I not use this natural thing to like further, my goals, to help my community? So every day I'm like, yeah, I gotta do this, but I'm still scared.
Mm-hmm.
The fear might delay you a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but it can't stop you.
It can't stop you. That's the thing. It can't stop you. It
It can't stop
cannot
you.
stop you. And if you allow it to, it's the worst feeling in the world,
Yes.
especially when you see somebody else get that opportunity that had your name on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the worst. So you got to get out your comfort zone. One of the worst things that ever happened to me to this day is like So I used to work for Verizon Wireless. I was young. I used to act. I wanted to be in entertainment was my thing. I wanted to be in entertainment. Music, I produced music. I did all types of different things. I'm good with people. So I got an opportunity to do an audition. My wife found something and she told me, go out to New York. So go out there, I kill this audition, not knowing, but I knew what to do without knowing what to do. Impress these people so much so to the point where they stopped the rest of the people and they had a job on hand to do. My first job would have been reenacting. When you ever watch like Maury when he goes through the story and it's like the flashback of the story and you see the back, they replay what happened. I was supposed to be one of those actors. And they needed me to go that day straight to just go do the job. But I had to work at 1:30. So I was just like, the part in my head that I never called out of work. I never even thought about calling out of work because I thought I would get fired. But that fear of taking the risk of, listen, these guys, they said they're going to pay me $500 today, but then I got this job. But it was more fear than anything else. But that fear stopped me. They were so pissed at me for not taking that gig because I said, so he was like, are you serious? I was disappointed. That feeling I will never forget, and I will never allow myself or anyone I know to experience that because of fear. We have to step out of our comfort zone and just take the risk. Take the risk.
You know what the actionable thing is when there's fear? Because what that tells me is in the moment, yes, you were fearful, but you didn't problem solve, because problem solving would have been like, all right, I gotta take off, right? What are the options that I have? You immediately went into, this happens to everybody, right? You immediately went into like, oh, I just can't do it. And we make like absolute statements. We don't ask questions. We don't, because the first thing is like when you jump into problem solving mode, and that's what I suggest to everybody who's like fearful of things. I have this thing I do. I don't know if you ever seen This Is Us.
This
you ever
is
watch
us.
that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, the best show ever. Sterling K. Brown. But he and Randall and Beth in the episode, they do this thing where like before they do anything difficult, they play worst case scenario. And so they stop. Like one time they had to talk to their daughter about, I think like something that happened at school or something crazy. And they were like, all right, what? Let's play worst case scenario. And he was like, all right, you get all the stuff that you think is going to happen or the worst, like the absolute worst thing. And you say it out. So it just leaves, it's basically, so it leaves your body, it leaves your brain. So they're standing in front of her room and they're like, all right, if we tell her she can't go, he was like, she'll kill us. He was like,
Can't get any worse than that.
Right. They're like going down the list. They're like, she might run away and end up on the pole. And then she was like, what? And like, just like these crazy things, because really what it is like your intrusive thoughts. And it's like in those moments when you're really fearful, and I'm telling this to you and the audience, but I'm really saying it to myself, something that I try to remember to practice in these moments where I have to make a decision and I'm fearful. What is the worst thing that could possibly happen? And is that actually rational? Like going back to what you said, like, oh, I could get fired because I've never even taken off. So if you've never taken off ever and you have one day where why would they fire you? You're like model citizen right now.
It was my excuse to why not to do it. And you're a family man and people going to look, you're trying to be an actor. You got a family. It was fear. It was fear over everything.
And I think that, but taking away from that, because I had a million of those stories where I'd be like, Mariah, that didn't make no sense. No sense why you just didn't go ahead and do that. But I think that to me, I think that is something to take away, like in those moments when fear is kind of taking over, like let's solution right now and see. And sometimes it's solutioning with people, obviously your wife or in your network or different things that have a different perspective. So I think that's what I definitely take away from that story. And like you said, now you have this, like, this is my reminder to never do that again. So I also think everything happens for a reason, because had you did it, and maybe like you did it, you got the $500, maybe it went somewhere, maybe it didn't, you wouldn't have this like reminder like, yo, don't make that mistake again. So things happen for a reason.
And I like, even looking at the question you have behind you, what if it all works out? Because I think it's perfect to do the worst case scenario, kind of get it all out, and I really like that. It's because really you kind of think it and you're saying it, and you might hear how ridiculous some things might be, but then there's another side, and it's what if it all works out? What's the best thing that can happen?
Yep.
We don't take time to really, we think about it, but I don't think we really consider it as a reality.
We don't. That is, I bought this, I seen this the other day, and I was like, oh my God, I need this, because I need those like reminders that, because I'm always going to do worst case scenario. Once I learned that, I was like, oh, you're in your head, and your thoughts are so powerful.
Yeah.
They're so powerful, and sometimes they can be crippling. So I'm like, all right, what are all the worst things that can happen? And then in life, like a lot of times, like I think of all the worst things and I start planning for them. So it's like, okay, like I got laid off last March. It'll almost be a year. I got laid off February 1st, the start of Black History Month. And then I did a contract with them for another month. But I think, contract or my severance, I think, was for another month. And in that time frame, I'm like talking to my husband. I'm like, here's all the things that I'm afraid of. Here's all the things that end up. And I'm like, we could be homeless. And he's like, we're not going to be homeless. Like, I'm here. I exist. We're not going to be homeless.
It's a real thing that's in your head that really could be bothering you, because it's just in your head, just there. Yeah. And the fact that you got it out of your head, and your husband's like, all right, babe, chill.
Yeah.
You're able to kind of let that go now,
Yeah. So I think that's important. And one of the other things I wrote, so I'm very big on like notes. So I have these little notes around like what I want to do. The one I wrote, I think like I sat here and cried like a baby, because I was just like, the plan that I had for my life is kind of falling apart. And I'm being dramatic because it wasn't, but that's what it felt like at the time, right? It was just like, okay, I was going up. I'm getting promoted like every 6 months to a year. I'm doing more. And although I'm feeling like I'm drowning, if I'm being quite honest, like I'm feeling like I'm drowning, but I'm also like achieving all these things, and people are so excited. And it's like that weird part of success where it's like, yes, you're doing so much more, but internally I'm like, I don't necessarily feel like I'm getting smarter. I don't feel like I'm actually able to work on myself. I'm doing the work for someone else constantly. I'm also a leader now, so I'm managing people, all of this stuff. So to go that route, and then people tell you mentioned this earlier about like identity and people like having what they think you should be, or if these things are instilled in you based on your culture and your family, and that's what you live off of. And so I'm going. I'm making really good money. I'm like, yes, da-da-da. And then it comes crashing down. And I'm like, well, the only thing I could do is like try to get back up there. And that's not the reality. The reality is, hey, I actually don't want to go that route. Like I've known that for years, but you don't want to say that. You're like, hey, no, I don't want to be an executive. I don't want to be a CRO or a CEO. I don't want to do any of that for y'all. Like,
yeah. Well, I want to do bird watching.
Yes. Like I remember working for one company, and I was just like, I just want to help people. And he was like, yeah, there's no money in that. I was like, no, I don't think that's true. He's like, no, I mean, we are helping people. I was like, no, we're helping companies make more money. And there's probably a little percentage that's going to go to the people, but I like was going through all of that in my head, and I wrote down, I need to put a date on this. I forget the date, but it says, you're in the beginning of a life-changing story. Put your head down, lock in. You'll be on the other side in no time. Actually, it's the right time, not no time, in the right time. So it's like in this little corner. Let me see if I can
send that to me.
I will. I'll send you a picture of it. It's like, and here we are, literally a year later from the official layoff. I have my own company. As you know, I work with Rework. We've got the podcast now, thanks to my lovely producer for pushing me. We've got our newsletter that comes out, and I'm honestly in a really good space mentally. And I'm like, all right, if this is now my ground zero. If I continue to push myself and get these crazy thoughts out of my head, where I'm going is it's endless, and I get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So
how does that feel?
Hmm?
How does that feel?
It feels really good, but it is still scary, because at the end of the day, I realize that I have to be confident, which means I have to repeat. I have to be consistent, right? I can't live in false confidence because it comes crashing down. It also means that I have to stop leaning into things like imposter syndrome, right? We talk about it, like I definitely feel I have it. But then getting into these roles and working with people, and they're in these high titles and they do all this stuff, and I'm not even gonna say they're not that smart, because that's not nice. What I will say is that they are intelligent in an area. And the best example I can give, I used to work for an insurance company, and people would call in. Used to do personal lines before I did commercial, and we'd have doctors and lawyers call in, and they're calling about their homes, and they're cursing my employees out about, like, if they say something they don't like, and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not, like, talking down to them. And I remember having the conversation. I'm just like, you don't ever let somebody come in here and tell you how to do your job better than, like, they don't know. He's a doctor. He's a lawyer. Okay. That means he's intelligent in that subject. He absolutely knows nothing about insurance.
Yeah. You're the professional.
And you know what you're doing. We're not talking to somebody who I'm like, all right, I'm talking to the best of the best. They 20 years in, they know their job. They're really passionate about it. And you're letting someone who's smart in another subject come in and belittle you and tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. How does that not apply to what we're doing?
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows my dream and my vision better than I do. And that is something that I have to constantly remind myself of, is like, where you want to go is on you. It's on you. That means finding the right people, finding the right community, being surrounded around other people who are going to push you, having conversations like this. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a very, like, we're talking, I'm in this moment, but everything that you're saying is like, I feel that on its deepest level.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Oh my God, this is awesome. I want to wrap up with a couple things. I want you to one, share, if you had to share with anybody or a piece of advice that is like heavy on your heart, where it's just like, I would scream this to the world, what would it be?
It would probably be put your vision first. Your vision comes first, and then focus on everything after. When it comes to, I'm a big avid believer in marriage. I believe that before you get married as a man, you should have your vision intact. You should be working on your vision. It shouldn't just be just a vision anymore. There should be something that you're putting towards it. So when you're ready to get married, you have something that you already kind of established, and you're not just trying to figure it out. That's something for me that I wish I had somebody tell me.
I love that. I also want to say, as I'm almost 34 and you're 40. My husband will be 40 in like a year, I think, or two. I forget. But 40 is not old. As we are.
After you said it like that, you don't make
it. Well, no, because I was trying to think. I'm like,
he's still got like 2 years.
What am I? If I'm turning 34, that means he's turning 38 this year. So okay. 2 years. But it's not. I think, like, it's not. And first of all, look at us. We look good. Hello.
And I think that's the difference. Like you said, I think the life expectancy has extended. Mm-hmm. And also, I think it's also the lifestyle that we live is a lot different too, because if you look at the 40-year-olds from back in the day, even the 30-year-olds, some 20-year-olds, like, they were very more serious and adult, and
yeah,
it was cool. But today it's a lot different, where 40-year-olds are literally looking like they're in their 30s, and they're moving, and they're mm-hmm. doing great things. And so many people are learning different things and sharing what they learn for other people to grab on. And there's different communities that we have today that didn't exist before, that kind of shape what's going on. So I'm just excited to be a part of it. You're a part of it. What you're doing is literally what I'm talking about. They didn't have this before,
At all.
Now we could sit down and just really converse and share knowledge.
Yeah, and wait, the funny thing is, as you're talking about this, I'm like, for me, my grandmother was always old. Like, she was always old. Like, I'm looking back, like, even in her, like, 40s and 50s and 60s, I'm like, bro, she was old all my life. And now my mom is in her 60s, and my mom looks good. Like, but I'm like, my grandmother in her 60s, and she looked like she was like, and not like in like her facial features, but she dressed like a 80-year-old woman. Like, why? But I'm like, and then I have I call her my grandmare. She's, well, I turned in 80, and when she is, you can't tell her nothing. And so like, so that difference, like,
I'm telling you,
black does not crack. I believe that fully. But no, I think that like having those spaces, I do think, I will say, I'll go back, I do think they did have those spaces, but they were in secret. And I think that the focus was more on like livelihood in a different kind of way, because they were battling things that, not to say that we're not battling, but it was so much more prevalent. Like, they're burning down their neighborhoods and they're like sneaking to learn. So they had, but I think to your point, it was different. And it was so serious. Instead of being like, you're not saying like, hey, you know what? Actually, instead of going to look for a job, I'm going to like start, a podcast. And they weren't doing stuff like that. They were like, you have a profession, you get your profession. If you're going to start a business, it needs to be something that works and helps for the community. And it's not necessarily, oh, you're doing these things for fun. You're doing these things for survival. And we get the opportunity to build in not just survival, but learning how to thrive, learning how to be happy, and learning how to explore and do things that aren't traditionally unique to our culture, which is super cool.
And that's why I'm grateful for things like YouTube, for example. The YouTube community is, you could go on there to learn how to do pretty much anything. And it's real people who are passionate about what they learn and are sharing it with whoever's willing to just watch it and learn. Because of things like YouTube and these different communities that we now have access to. In my house, I was able to change things like water heaters and do different things like that would have costed anybody thousands of dollars, So it's just the time that we're living in. It's an exciting time because everybody gets to kind of share whatever with everybody. There's a good side to it and there's a bad side to it. But if you get that balance and you kind of find that sweet spot, man, what a time to be alive, really.
Oh, I love that. And then let us know, I'm going to put your socials in, but let us know where to find you and where to find your clothing line or anything you'd like us to support.
Okay. You can find me on Instagram at _Jonah Alain _ spelled just like you see on the screen there. The same is on X, Facebook. You can find me Jonah Alain. Once you put Jonah Alain in like that, I don't think anybody else has that name. I'll come up. You could find me on Etsy. I have accessories and men's clothing there. What else? LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. Jonah Leroy. There's so many different social media handles.
I know it's so many. But we're gonna take it now. I'm gonna make sure I put it in so that people can click on it.
The most important is LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram,
and Etsy.
And Etsy.
I'm gonna go look on your Etsy. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and Colwell Baker. You can find me at Colwell Baker.
Hello.
I can't forget that. You're looking to buy, purchase, sell, whatever it is, come see me. I'll be more than happy to be your real estate agent. If you're looking to purchase a home and you're just not ready yet, but you are looking to learn, I am passionate about teaching people to become first-time home buyers. I think that's something that we all should definitely take advantage of, being in this country. And just call me, text me, whatever it is. Let's have virtual coffee. I'm willing to talk and share whatever I can.
You and I are going to put on a workshop because I want more of us to have homes. So
yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. It's funny. Yesterday, I just went to another Haitian restaurant and I had a conversation with them and told them that I'm going to be doing things and just setting it up, So we have some locations when we're ready to do it.
Nice. Okay. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I truly, truly appreciate this. I think you're right. I think this is going to be, you said, the best episode. I'm excited about this episode. Really. I'm
Thank you.
very, very excited.
I was trying to be your Cat Williams to your Shannon Sharp, but
Hello.
I was that cool. I don't think I was that funny.
No. We did it. We did. We were more, I think this is impactful. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
no, I was. I'm joking.
Thanks for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share with a friend, comment below. The Growing the Middle podcast is produced and edited by Mid-Century Marketing Company. We aim to create engaging and relatable content that helps you chart your own path to growing the middle. I want to thank our wonderful guests, and especially you, the listener. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to let us know. Until next time.